Hi. Welcome back to another video on storytelling through diary entries. Last time we've talked about, keeping around a little notebook. For me, it's just a very simple pocket notebook. So I have little snippets and vignettes in here. The next step is really important. The next step is all about turning this into a diary entry on your computer, which we didn't really talk about last time. We kind of glossed over it. But this time, let's talk about why should you keep a diary? And also more importantly, why should you keep a diary like that every single day? So from Sedaris' collection, Theft by Finding, which is like a collection of his diary entries, from an entry in 1983, he basically said, I started writing one afternoon when I was 20, and ever since then I have written every single day. After a while, you stop being forced and become honest and unafraid of your thoughts. The whole point of keeping diary entries, or the whole point of trying to tell a story about your day every single day on a daily basis, I feel like I'm rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. But the whole point is all about becoming unafraid of your own thoughts. So right now, besides going to university and YouTube and a million other things, and which, by the way, if you are enjoying all of the diary entries, and if you're enjoying my readings on this channel, if you're enjoying some of the stories that I've been telling, be sure to check out this new project that I'm currently working on. So this is a repository of the more polished pieces. So each piece is going to have an audio clip with it. Eventually I'm going to turn that entire collection into a podcast, which, yes, I've succumbed to peer pressure. I am going to start a podcast, but not yet. So far, we've only got one piece published up there. It's called There's Another Me Out There, and if you want to check out that piece, be sure to do so. The link is in the description box down below. Yeah, besides that project, I actually work part-time as a creative writing teacher every Wednesday afternoon. So what I've noticed from all of these amazing students, by the way, there's this one person that was really sarcastic with her prose. There's this another guy that was really good with kind of carrying the reader through a narrative. And there was this other girl. She was so good at using metaphor that I'm just like, wow, that's so awesome. I could never do that. So to keep my rambles to a minimum, keeping a diary entry every single day is really going to encourage you to unearth whatever that voice of yours is. From the start of November, I kept a diary entry every single day, and now it's at the end of February, so I've ended up with more than 90 diary entries. And some of the stories that I've been writing recently, the raw material of the stories, they all came from those diary entries. So you're not just building up your voice, you're also building up a repository of silly things that you can write about. For me, it's silly things, or nostalgic things, or things that meant something to me. But for you, it might be something completely random. It might be something completely outrageous, completely nonsensical. Find the opportunity every single day to write it down. For me, that window of opportunity lies between 10 a.m. and around 10 a.m. 11 a.m. because I can't write at night because my brain's just dead at night. That's how it works. But I love recounting the day from 10 to 11, so I can write about the previous day, and after writing about the previous day, I can then move on with the new day. So that's my personal writing routine. Don't copy me. There's no point copying my writing routine. You have to figure out your own system. But the most important thing here is that you have to write every single day. You need to be at your desk if you want to capture a great story. And speaking of capturing your life as a story, today's episode is in part brought to you by SKILLSHare and the legendary Nathaniel Drew, who I did a collaboration with not too long ago. He recently released a course on how to document your life in a sustainable fashion. Because in the age of oversharing, in the age where everyone's posting everything on Instagram, how do you search for a narrative that's actually worth telling? If you've loved some of my video diary entries, if you loved some of the storytelling aspects of my channel, I think you'll really like this course. And as a lucky viewer of this channel, SKILLSHare is offering you a premium membership for free if you follow the link in the description down below. I know Nathaniel Drew is chilling on there, but on SKILLSHare you literally have access to, classes on everything, from gardening to cooking to how to document your life. So go check it out. After the free trial, SKILLSHare comes down to less than $10 per month. And then again, the first 1,000 students will have access to a premium membership for free on SKILLSHare. So the rambling's over. Let's come back to the story. In the previous video, I talked about a new bicycle of mine. I talked about this new bicycle, how I was just completely in love with this bicycle, and then something happened. Something completely absurd happened, which is a story that I'm going to read to you right now. 15th of February, 2021, Melbourne. Since getting a new bicycle, I adopted a new routine of riding it in a park every afternoon while listening to audiobooks. Right now I'm listening to When You're Engulfed in Flames by Sedaris, and the bike rides were rendered all the more pleasant. This afternoon, however, proved to be a total disaster in the biking department. I went out of the door and started riding like a normal person. I avoided pedestrians and all forms of eye contact, and I stuck to the left lane while silently judging those walking while checking their phones. On my way into the park, I saw a bike with a baby loaded on the back of it on a tiny little seat. Though I've never fallen off a bike since I was 4, carrying a baby on the back of a two-wheeled vehicle still freaked me out a little bit. You'd never see a baby strapped on the back of a motorcycle or a penny far thing, so why should a bike be different? Also, what's the baby getting out of a bike ride? Nevertheless, I rode on. There was a man in front of me occupying the left lane, glued to his phone. I got kind of mad, so I overtook him and cut right in front of him. Perhaps my movements were too rapid. My bike went skidding and I almost fell over. I could almost hear the man laughing at me, but I rode on. I got as far as possible away from all the pedestrians, and I ended up in the middle of nowhere. A few kilometers outwards, I found a bench and sat down and discovered something I'd rather not confront. A flat tire. It was so flat that I could poke my finger into the inside of the tire. A part of me wished that it was nothing major. Maybe if I pumped a little air into it, everything would be fine, but I was wrong. The rubber was essentially peeling off of the frame, and I was left with two choices. Ride the sucker home and risk trashing the tire, or push the bike all the way back from the middle of nowhere. I manned up and decided, against all odds, to hitchhike home while pushing a broken bike. Now, if you see a man pushing a bike home, there could only be two explanations. One, he's a total bummer and he's exhausted after riding a bike for 10 minutes. It was implausible because I looked way too young to fit that description. The other explanation, which was closer to the truth, well, this idiot just broke his bike and he couldn't ride it home anymore. I stomached the second explanation as I endured many pairs of judging eyes from passing bikers. Some of them were kids, which made it even more humiliating. I pushed the bike through a few miles of road, and after about 2 hours, I was home. I sat on the porch and I received a phone call. "Hi, this is Sister something, calling you from your local church. Have you spoken to one of our missionaries? How do you do?" "A flat tire," I said, "and I'm still trying to scrape the rubber off of the frame." "Oh," she went silent for a while. "Just letting you know Jesus Christ loves you, and if you ever want to get answers to what might happen after you die." I looked at the flat tire and wiped the sweat off of my brows and thought about what she said. Jesus still loves me. I went into the garage and said, I think I'm a little too young to think about all that stuff, especially the stuff about, like, what's going to happen after you die. "How old are you?" she asked. "I'm 20, I said. "Oh, I'm so sorry. You sound way older than you are." For all I knew, I was an old man living in the middle of nowhere dealing with a flat tire. I said, "Tell you what, I'll give you a call whenever I get to my midlife crisis in about 10 years. I pushed the bike back into my garage and closed the door. "Yeah, sure," she said. "Well, just remember." I hung up the phone and sat on the porch. A mosquito landed on the back of my hand, and the rest was history.